What's up, Tweener heads? Welcome back to another Tweener head tennis video today here on our channel. If you are new to the channel, hey, how's it going? My name's Phil, and this is where we talk about tennis in a more casual way for you guys to find out what's going on and off the court, and just to have some more fun with the sport of tennis. Now, today we have a very special interview with top 30 in the world wheelchair tennis player Dermot Bailey. Dermot is a top 30 in the world player from the United Kingdom, and I'm very excited to have him on to talk to him about his journey, his life, how he got into wheelchair tennis, and more that comes with the sport as well. So I'm very excited to talk to him about what happened with the US Open and Dylan Alcott, his journey, his playing style, the struggles of playing wheelchair tennis, and what people really might not understand about the sport of wheelchair tennis. And I want to educate you guys as well as myself about the sport as well. So I hope you guys do enjoy this video. Make sure to leave a big like on this video, as well as making sure you subscribe to Tweener Head Tennis. Make sure to go check out Dermot on all his social medias to follow his journey. So I hope you guys enjoy this video, and make sure to go show Dermot some love on his social medias down in the description below. Enjoy the video, guys.
Yeah, of course.
So Dermot, what was the reason you got into tennis?
So I played a bit of tennis before I got my disability. So I got my disability, which is Perthes disease. Only affects my right hip. I got that when I was 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
And for about 2, maybe 3 years after that, I didn't really compete in any sport. I didn't train at anything along those lines. And then I went to I think it was a ATP or an ITF event at Nottingham for able-bodied players. And my brother went and had a go on the mini tennis, like little setup there just for like kids to go and play and stuff like that. And the guy called me over and went, "Oh, do you want to have a go at wheelchair tennis?" And I've never heard of it. He went, "Oh, well, come over and just have a try." And like, I hit a couple of balls. And he was like, "Oh yeah, well, we've got a camp coming up at this date. Here's an email address. Send an email if you're interested."
Oh, wow.
And yeah, just went along to the camp, and I've been playing ever since.
Wow. And was that, did you work with that person ever again, or was it just kind of like a one-time thing? And like,
I think he introduced me to it, and then it sort of like got picked up. Like you do the camps that were run by, at the time it was the Tennis Foundation. So the Tennis Foundation has now become part of the LTA. So yeah, so I think everything now is the equivalent of it nowadays would just be everything like the LTA run camps to try and get people into the sport, and then the LTA have their own like pathway coaches basically, who then look after you and stuff like that. So it's probably similar to the able-bodied in that sense, but you've got like the pathway and everything along those lines. It's just on a lot smaller scale than the able-bodied game.
What was your first tournament experience like playing wheelchair tennis?
I think my first tournament would probably be could have been like in the wheelchair game. You'd enter the nationals as a junior.
Okay.
So we'd do like the junior camps, and we'd have those like little events there, kind of thing, and it'd be junior tournaments at different tournaments. But my first memory really was like the nationals, and you'd go there, and back then it was probably, it was 10, maybe 12 years ago. My first one could even be longer than that. But yeah, you'd go there and it'd have all of the top British men, all of the top British women, all of the top British quads all playing it, and you'd go there as a junior. It was your first experience of it, and you'd be like, "Oh, this is amazing." You're watching all of these guys play, and yeah, it like inspires you to do it. And then you play the matches, you lose, like it's your first event, but like just the whole experience of it was eye-opening as well, like because you see what certain people are doing and how they're going along their progress. And at the same time, like the juniors who were playing that event were in the men's division. They were in the men's division in the Rio Paralympics. 3 of the people at my first nationals were playing in the junior event there. So like you could see that those 3 of those guys have just obviously gone on, and like I think Gordon Reid was probably there as well. I think he was definitely there at like the first junior nationals I did, and like you see him now, I think he's definitely like top 10. I think he's 4th or 5th in the world or something like that. multiple Grand Slam winner, gold medalist in Rio, and you could see what he was doing at the time, and it's just obviously inspiring for a first time competitor to see how they do it, how they prepare, and everything like that, and you do copy what they do.
What makes a wheelchair tennis player great? What makes them better than others?
I think if you watch top wheelchair tennis players, you can watch them and forget they're in a wheelchair.
Really?
I think if you watch some matches, you'll sit there and go, I mean, it's obvious they're in a chair. Like, you're still going to see it bounce twice and everything along those lines. But you'll sit there and you'll be like, it's just good tennis.
Mm-hmm.
You see how they move, how they think, everything like that. The tactics it's all exactly the same as the able-bodied.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously not as quick.
Yeah.
Because there isn't the same like speed around the court and everything along those lines. But yeah, I think the skill level is the same. There's certain things you can't do. You're not going to see people serving 140 miles an hour in a wheelchair. If people serve over 100 miles an hour in a wheelchair, then it's like they've got one of the best serves in the world. Yeah, exactly. So I think the comparison can be there. You just have to be like cautious to compare like directly, I think.
So what would be something that Gordon Reid or Dylan Alcott would do that would shock a normal observer that doesn't know the game?
If you watch Dylan play, Dylan's a brilliant example of how, because he's in the quad division. Okay. So his arms are impaired as well. Okay. And you can watch him play, and he can do everything. He can volley, he can serve. He's a brilliant mover around the court as well, and that's why he's been number one in the world and won Grand Slams. Mm-hmm. And you can watch him play, and you don't sit there and go, "Oh, this person's got a clear disability." Like, you sit there and go, "This guy's a good tennis player. He's got a disability," and like, he's obviously in a different. He can be in. It's obvious he's in a different category to Gordon or Shingo Kaneda, the Japanese player. Yeah. But you still watch him and go, he's got all of the skills. He's just got an impairment that means he can't quite do everything that the people in the men's open division can.
Before I get to Dylan's tweets and the movement he just started recently on Twitter, I wanted to ask you, for those who do not know, the difference between, you pointed it out, quads. There's quad tennis, there's quad wheelchair tennis, and then what's the other type?
So Paralympic sport obviously has quite a few issues with like classifications. Like, if you watch a swimming event at Paralympic Games, mm-hmm. there'll be like over 10 different categories, and you don't understand always how someone fits into a category or whatever. Mm-hmm. But in wheelchair tennis, it's really simple. You have the quad division, where basically one or more upper body limb, so you're basically your arms, mm-hmm. one or more arm is affected by disability. And you have the open divisions, which are men and women. The quad division is a mixed division. Mm-hmm. So men and women can compete against each other. But yeah, that's the only difference between them. It could just be slight issue with it has to be severe enough that they can get classified into the division. Gotcha. But it could be something as simple as there are players who are missing fingers on their racket hands. Okay. And there are, but to the level where there is quadriplegics mm-hmm. who have to tape the racket to their hands. Oh, gotcha. So they have a fixed grip, so they're an impairment to certain players in division who don't have to tape, because if you don't have to tape, you can change your grip around. Gotcha. And then you can hit like slice, or you can hit drive easier. Gotcha. But if you've just got one grip, you can only hit one shot, really. Gotcha. Or it's harder to hit both shots. Okay. I didn't know that, so that's very interesting, because for me, when I first tried it, trying to switch your grip after pushing off, and you're using from what I was taught, when you push off on the wheels, you use the racket, not just your hands. You use the racket to push off on the chair. And if you try to play it again, and just try taping the racket to your hand, and you'll see how, like, the quad division, like, you can watch how people play in that division, and you just think, like, it's incredible. Like, you have to tape it so you're able to serve, because you have to, if you play tennis, you know you've got to have certain grip on your racket to be able to serve properly. And then you still need to be able to hit all your ground strokes.
Yeah.
So you just see that if you try it like able body, just try taping a racket into your hands, one grip, and just try playing a set or two sets like that, and you'll just see how hard it is for them to do it, and then you'll realize the level of skill that these players have got.
I think Dermot just gave me my next YouTube video idea. Just
There you
playing
go.
tennis with one grip. It's like the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
So moving on to Dylan's tweets and the whole controversy with able-bodied versus wheelchair tennis debate with the US Open. What did you think of what Dylan said?
I think he's 100% right. I don't know how. I think it's disappointing that the wheelchair event wasn't included originally, to be honest. But like, oversights do happen, and everyone's able to make a U-turn. So, like, you have to praise the US Open for doing that. From what people have said, it's disappointing that there was a lack of communication with the players. But from what everyone seems to be saying, like, you see it on the WTA players are saying it as well, there seems to be a lack of communication coming from the governing bodies anyway, back to the players. So it's quite, and especially in this difficult time where you need more communication, it'd be great to get some more. But no, Dylan's 100% right. The decision needed to be changed. Like, discrimination's a very serious words, but it doesn't make sense why it was excluded. Because the wheelchair event starts in the second week. Yeah. You can start, like, the first day of that tournament is going to have 400 or 500 people on site, just players and their staff. Yeah. By the time the wheelchair event starts, you're down to what, 30? Yeah. And the wheelchair players aren't turning up with 10 team members and stuff like that. Yeah. So it didn't make sense to me why it wasn't ever included. But
how long does the tournament usually last for wheelchair tennis? Because they said the tournament's supposed to go from the 10th of September to the 13th for the US Open. Is that usually the time frame of how long the tournament lasts? Yeah, it's just so that'd be a 4-day event, is that right? Yes. Yeah, just a 4-day event usually. So they have the finalists and singles tend to play on the Sunday. Okay. So they play 2 rounds, day off, and then I think that's how it usually works. I'm not different tournaments have different scheduling, but gotcha. Yeah, it tends to be like men's singles, men's, women's, and quad finals are all on the Sunday, and the doubles varies, I think, at some tournaments. I'm not sure. Is there a player council for you guys for wheelchair tennis? Yeah, the ITF have a player council. Okay. Do you think the communication's good with them? Because this is like an overarching theme with every able-bodied, disabled, the amount of communication that the higher-ups have compared to you, or compared to just a player. Do you guys have good communication with them or no? No, I don't think we do, to be honest. I think the members of the player council obviously have, like, a certain insight that they give to the ITF. Okay. And that's very valuable. But you can't, the ITF then needs to feed back basically whatever comes out of that meeting, it needs to be fed back to the wider players, because you can't expect every player to go, oh, all right, I'm going to message one of the people on the player council. Yeah. It's not fair. If we've only got 4 or 5 members of a players council, you can't expect 500, 600 people to then go and message them. So I think it needs to come from the ITF, and they need to be more proactive in the decision making, especially around when tournaments are going to restart. We shouldn't be waiting to find out what the ATP and WTA are going to do.
we should be having our own decision.
I completely agree. That's like the biggest issue that everyone's been having right now when it comes to just comparing it to every other sport. There seems to be a transparency there that a lot of people understand and continue to grow from.
It seems like we're in the wheelchair game. We're just waiting on the able-bodied game to make a decision, and you can't compare it. If you look at it's in wheelchair tennis, they're called Super Series. They're probably the equivalent of like a ATP 1000 event.
Yeah.
And you look at the level of the funding that goes into an ATP event and the player area, everything along those lines is completely, you can't compare it. There's no, you wouldn't be able to do social distancing at probably 95%, if not higher, of wheelchair tennis tournaments.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's a lot of the lower events are at normal club venues.
Yeah.
And you've got possibly, you could have upwards of 80 players there across the 3 divisions. And they bring staff, they bring family, and you're at a small club.
So there's nowhere to walk, nowhere to kind of have your own distance.
You can't get away from it. Sometimes sometimes you don't even have a proper place to store your wheelchair.
Oh wow.
Or like your tennis chair. It'll be off in a conference room down the side or something like that.
And you'd be sharing it with someone else, correct?
Everyone would be having their tennis chair in the same place.
That's even worse.
And who would do the testing for ITF events? Who's going to pay for testing for the players along those lines? Because ATP, like the players, the events could probably pay to put it on, especially the higher event, like the
US
like the thousands and US
Masters,
Opens, everything like that. They can do it. But like wheelchair tennis events, a Futures has a prize pot of $2,000 for the entire tournament. And you'd have, 3 divisions split, like 70, 80 players, all getting a share of $2,000. And then if the ITF go, all right, this tournament needs to pay for testing,
so
they can't do it. Yeah, if they say, we have to take out the prize money, you don't know how people can because you can't pay to have everyone tested.
No, you can't.
Because you'd have to have everyone tested on arrival.
And then probably once
every 3 days. And then have to be tested during the tournament.
Yeah.
Even if it's only a 4-day event, you still have to do 2 testings.
You could have the Donald Trump approach and just say we have so many tests. Why do we have to test? If we don't test, we don't have many cases. Like that's just the wrong mentality to have.
Exactly. And I think until we're in a position where we know it's safe to travel, and we know it's safe for people from all different areas to travel to one place and be in a confined area, then until we're in that position, I don't know how we can put on tournaments, because like the shambles that happened with Djokovic's event, like that just shows that you can't put on an event and not have proper testing and everything along those lines. Yeah. And I don't see how they can do that at some of the wheelchair tennis events.
I was watching Battle of the Brits. I was surprised that you guys weren't involved, like you, Gordon Reid. Like there should have been maybe a wheelchair competition for it.
It's a bit disappointing that there hasn't been any form of wheelchair event, to be honest. Like there hasn't been any discussion that says, we're just going to put on a wheelchair event. But to be honest, in reality, you'd have 3 men that probably compete, and I'm not on the level of Alfie and Gordon. So it'd be those 2 playing each other, and we'd be in a round robin, kind of thing. Because I don't think you could open it up to many more people and still keep it competitive, unfortunately.
Yeah.
At the minute, so I can understand why it's not happening.
Yeah.
But it'd been not. It's almost like if if the question's there, we can say, oh, we wouldn't be able to put it on, and it'd be a spectacle. So
that's the biggest. That's another issue. Like just ask, and I think that's what Dylan, when he first tweeted out and came out on the news channel, it's just all you have to do is just ask. It's just common courtesy for that to kind of just say, hey, would you like to put on this event? Hey, could you be able to put on this event? And if the answer is no, it's no, and then you move on. But just to disregard it completely is a whole nother story.
Yeah, like the big thing that I think annoyed a lot of the wheelchair players for the US Open was that there was no communication at all. And from some of the things I read, it was almost as if US Open hadn't spoken to the ITF about the wheelchair draw. And I might be wrong. Maybe there was, but it's just how it read anyway. Mm-hmm. It's just a bit disappointing that there wasn't, because if the communication was there and the US Open said, are the players willing to travel and are they willing to do these things basically to make it safe? The ITF goes to the players, asks those questions. And if a few of them say no, then they've said no, they don't run the event. But I can guarantee all of them would have said yes, because they've been training for it.
Exactly. Because what else are you supposed to do?
They're professional athletes.
Yeah.
We're still professional athletes. Like, we still want to, like, these guys still want to be competing, still want to be earning because it's their job.
Yeah.
And just take it away because we didn't think that they'd be able to do it.
That's the hardest part. That's the hardest part. So let's move away from more of the serious topics and talk about, one, how many blisters do you get on average?
A lot.
What's that? That must be. It must be.
It's hard to say. Like, sometimes you just get them in so many places. Like, you'll end up with, if you've done 2 or 3 tournaments in a row, then your hands are just in bits
and just shattered.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Like your neck, your back, like.
Really? You get it in your neck?
Yeah.
Like blisters in your neck?
No, just like your back and neck pain and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And
okay.
Like in wheelchair events as well, like certain people are probably at risk of getting like pressure sores and stuff like that. The amount of time they spend in their wheelchairs, like, they can't, obviously paraplegic, you can't feel below a certain level, and you can end up getting a pressure sore. Like, you just spent too long in the wheelchair.
Have you ever gotten a back cramp from this?
Is that
common?
You can get back pain. Back pain's quite common.
You can get back pain doing anything. I'm getting back pain just sitting down.
But yeah, I don't really get cramps in, like, but I get like, you'll get like forearm cramping and stuff like that. I definitely do. Like, if I'm playing a long match or something, I start getting like cramps in my forearm, like can't hold my racket properly. Can't change grip sometimes.
So you don't have to tape your hand to the racket?
I don't have to tape. No, but yeah, like, you get to a point sometimes, like if you're playing like a 3-hour match, something like that, like your forearm's gone and you're trying to hit a shot and you're just like,
you can't turn.
This isn't for me. And like, I just have to do this one instead. You're just like punting a ball in for no reason. Just
it's just not working at all.
Yeah, it's just not working. I'm just going to try and make it and push.
Has there ever been an incident for you or for wheelchair tennis in general, like when the chair itself has broken down or when it maybe something went wrong with it? How does that work during a match?
So you can get a like 15-minute technical timeout.
Okay. So
like if you need to do repairs on your chair or something, because flat tires, like punctures, are quite common. Actually breaking the chair is quite rare.
Okay.
And like the players try and keep on top of like chair maintenance and everything like that. But you can go on court and get a puncture anytime. It's like the same as like an able-bodied player breaking a shoe.
Oh, okay.
Or something like that. So it can just happen. Like you could push over a rock on the court or something.
Oh, gotcha.
Or anything like that, and just something a bit abrasive, and it just goes. So it can happen, especially like the tires that I use are at 180 psi.
Okay.
So it doesn't take a lot for something to just
something sharp just punctures it and it's just gone.
Yeah, it's gone completely as well. Like you have to change it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's not just rackets or the gear that you use, your string. It's also you have to worry about another piece of gear. It's quite obviously the most important part of your game.
Yeah, exactly. Like especially traveling's can be quite a worry.
Yeah.
With it as well. Like sometimes airplanes aren't the best, but you just have to like be sort of confident that when you put your chair on the plane, it's going to get off the plane in the same number of pieces, and it's not going to have any cracks or dents or anything like that. But touch wood, everything so far has been okay for me, but you do hear some horror stories about
Really?
it.
What's been the worst one? Has someone like had one just come out just completely like broken in half?
You've had it like where the frame's just bent or completely snapped or anything like that. To be honest, like it can happen so many different ways. The wheels can be bent, spokes have gone.
Jesus.
Yeah, no, it just happens. Like it's just one of those things, unfortunately.
That's very unfortunate. I'm surprised. How many chairs do you usually take with you? 2? Or just 1?
Just have the one tennis chair and then my everyday wheelchair.
Okay.
As well, so yeah.
Is there a big difference when you play on different surfaces, or is that not as much as an impact?
Yeah, you notice it a lot in the wheelchair, I think, to be fair. Especially grass is tough.
Did you grow up on grass?
Grass is a really tough surface to play on. Sorry?
Did you grow up on grass? I'm sorry.
No, we're just hardcourt usually.
Okay.
No, there's only 2 grass court tournaments.
Oh, really?
And one of them's Wimbledon.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's only been in the last few years anyway. So, like, when you're growing up, there's no reason to play on grass at all. So, yeah, we just avoided it. And then I played Queens last year.
How was that?
And yes, just horrible. So hard to move. Like, you get so much resistance when you're pushing. So you constantly have to keep like reminding yourself to push. You can't just glide around the court or anything like that. You have to be constantly on it, and it's tough. That's why you can't really do a wheelchair tour on grass. But
because is it just harder to like move around?
Yeah, it's just difficult. Like the wheels obviously don't roll as well, and it's not 100% even on grass. Mm-hmm. Even like the best courts aren't completely flat, just because that's what the surface is at the end of the day. So
yeah,
but nice. I mean, Queens is an amazing place, and the courts are spectacular and everything like that. It's tough. That's the only thing.
I really want to go to. Hopefully next year I get to go to Wimbledon in Queens. I went to the French Open last year, but I've heard so many good things about it.
Queens was amazing, to be fair. As a player as well, like the way you looked after it's amazing.
The hospitality is perfect.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. They look after you so well, and like the whole setup there is just it's a different level, especially when we compare it to some of the wheelchair tournaments. But no, it's just different level, like in terms of money, everything like that. So it's always going to be different scale. But no, it's incredible.
Awesome. And I think the last question before we go is, what's been your best memory playing wheelchair tennis?
I don't know. It's a tough one. That I think like you have quite a few good ones and obviously quite a few bad ones as well. But I think it's a toss-up really between first tournament win. First international tournament win is always a big one. It's probably that, because it'd been a tough time. I'd had a few months out, and then when I came back, it took me a while to get back. I dropped from like 50 in the world to outside top 300 or something like that.
Oh wow!
In the time I had off, so then when I came back, I managed to, after about 7 months, it took me to get back to playing well enough. And then I managed to win a tournament up in Sheffield, and no, that was probably my favourite moment, just because of what it meant to me at the time. And I think it still means a lot, because I'd lost in a few finals, and anyone who knows what it feels like to lose in a final, it's horrible. And especially trying to get that first win.
Yeah.
For some reason, once you get the first one, you can get the second one quite comfortably. You've got confidence, you know what to do in that final. But yeah, it's that one, I think. Like, yeah, it means the most, I think, because it's probably, without that, there wouldn't be the other stuff that's come after it.
100%. Well, Dermot, I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us about everything wheelchair tennis related, and I really appreciate it that you took time out of your day for this.
Thanks for having me on.
No problem.
I appreciate it.
Anything you want to shout out before we leave?
No, I think it's just, for me personally, it's like everything, like the LTA and my sponsors like LS and Telford Man have done for me in this difficult time has been incredible. I've got equipment from the LTA, but they've sent through all of the support, the other stuff, like that Telford Man and LS give me, and without that, I'd be really struggling at the moment. Obviously, you've got no tournaments, no money coming in. It's difficult. So yeah, without those guys, I don't know what situation I'd be in. So yeah, definitely massive thanks to those ones.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming on, and I really appreciate it. I'll leave your socials down in the description below for anyone that wants to follow you and follow your journey.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Take care, guys.